Good morning. No technical glitches today. That was all very traumatic yesterday when we had to switch streams, and I was stood there this morning with my fingers crossed thinking, please don't go wrong this morning. So, I've got lots of people saying hello, so we'll catch up with the shout outs in a moment. Just a reminder, 2 pens, so you've got a different color for marking, a ruler so you can set out your work neatly, a notebook if you have one, so you can keep all your fabulous work nice and neat and all in one place. You do not need a calculator, you know that now. You definitely don't need one of those, but as we all know, we need our big, fabulous, gigantic, enormous, infinite brain. So please make sure you switched in, you focused, half an hour of your time. Absolutely brilliant. Also, your parents are really handy when it comes to doing those parent versus kids challenge, okay? So drag them into the room and see if you can beat them with those challenges. Now, just very quickly, we break up from school on Friday, most of us. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to continue to run these sessions, but they're going to be 3 times a week. They're going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They'll still be at 10 o'clock. They'll mostly still be live. There'll be a few that I won't be able to do live because I've got commitments with my own family, but I'll do as many as I can live 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and all still at 10 o'clock. All right, so that's just to give you a heads up on that. So let's have a quick look at yesterday's review questions. Now, if you are watching this on catch up and you did not have a chance to do the review questions, you can pause the video and do them now. For all of you watching live, let's hope that you did do them yesterday and we can now go through the answers. So we have 2/9 of 54 is 12. 20 multiplied by 0.2 is 4. 1/2 of 1/4 of 1/8 of 320, one of those challenging UK maths challenge questions, is 5. That's a 2-mark question. 7 subtract -6 is 13. And question 5, B is 143 degrees. C is 37 degrees and D is 143 degrees. Now remember, we need to specify what our angle rule is. So for B, our angle rule is that angles on a straight line sum to 180. The angle rule for C is that vertically opposite angles are equal. And then D, you can choose really. You can either have vertically opposite angles or are equal, or angles on a straight line, sum to 180, the same as you had for B. Okay, so that's our review questions done. Let's get started. Are we ready to go? Let's get started with part 1. Your 10 questions coming up. Don't forget, number in the left-hand side. If you've drawn a margin, you can number from 1 to 10. It makes it easier when you're marking. Let's go. Okay, you've got about 30 seconds to go. Part 2 coming up. Thirty seconds to go. Part 3 coming up. 30 seconds to go. Okay, your time is up. So before we go through the answers, I'm overdue a couple of shout outs, aren't I? So good morning to Matada. Good morning to Ishani, to Amy. Good morning to Rose E. Good morning to Taha, who I used to teach. Fabulous to have you come along. Good morning to Louisa. Good morning to Aliha. Good morning to, who else have I got? Catherine, and yeah, I think we are, oh, and Janeth, good morning to you, Janeth. Fantastic. Okay, right, let's get some answers up on the board. Okay, there we go. So our part 1 answers. Question 1 is 4. Question 2 is 99. Question 3 is 53. Question 4 is 85. Question 5 is -5. Question 6 is 2. Question 7 is 48.02. That's quite a tricky one. And remember, you can approximate to see if you've got about the right answer by doing 10 multiplied by 5 is 50. Make sure you get that decimal point in the right place. Rounding, we've got 49.021 decimal place. And the Parent versus Kids Challenge, B, is 143 degrees. And the angle rule is angles on a straight line sum to 180. Let's move on to part 2. Okay, we have -27 for question 1. Question 2 is 47. Question 3 is 86. Question 4 is 0.01. Question 5 is 1, because 23 is a prime number. Question 6 is 1,350. Question 7 is 1. Question 8 is 19. And the 2 mark Parent versus Kids Challenge, only one of those has a solution of x equals 12. And I'm going to show you that on the board in a moment. Right, part 3, make sure you are totaling up your scores as we go as well, so you can pop those in the chat for me when we're putting our stickers on our Beat the Clock board. Okay, so part 3, question 1 is 62. Question 2 is 1.8. Question 3 is 5,355. Question 4, 1,045. Question 5 is 1. Question 6 is 75. Question 7 is no. And the 3 mark Parent versus Kids Challenge, the fraction that is shaded is 3 over 16, 3/16. We're going to look at that on the board as well. Okay. Whilst you're totaling up your scores, and then you're going to pop those in the chat for me, let's have a look at our Beat the Clock board and see how many more numbers we can cover up. Let's have a look. Right, so we have... well, Rose isn't ready to help me. I'm going to have to do it on my own today. No. 99. You're going to read them out for me. What's 99, the next number?
53.
That's the answer to question 3.
85.
85 is the answer to question 4. Yep.
49.0 is the answer to question 8.
Okay, excellent.
And now part 2.
Part 2, brilliant.
Minus 27. So should we just use 27?
Yeah, let's put 27 on because we don't have any
47.
negative numbers on here. It's
That's
negative
question
27, by the way.
Right.
Negative 27. 47. Yep, go ahead.
86.
86. Yep.
19 is the answer to question 8. And now on to part 3. So
Right.
62.
62 is the answer to question 1. This is part 3.
Question 6 is 75.
Okay, and I think that is all of our numbers done. Oh, she's so dodgy. Right, okay, pass me the boards over. Let's do some learning. Fantastic. Okay, here we go, back on this side. So, thank you very much for your help, Rose. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Right, okay, so just a quick recap. We did talk about some angle rules yesterday. Oh, let me make sure you can see all the board. Got a little bit of reflection going on. Not sure if I can fix that. Okay. All right, so a little title of angle rules. Now, yesterday, we did vertically opposite angles are equal. We did also mention this one, so this is just a little bit of a recap, but we talked about the fact that angles on a straight line sum to 180. I'm just going to write that down. Angles on a straight line, sum to 180 degrees. Therefore, if I know in this case we were told that A equals 37 degrees, I can therefore work out what B is. B is going to be 180 subtract 37, okay? And that's going to give me 143 degrees. All good? Right, let's move on. Now, trying to remember, I think it might have been Aliha who said she was struggling a little bit with the balancing method. So the next question we're going to look at is the Parent versus Kids Challenge in part 2, which was asking us which one of a number of equations had a solution of x equals 12. I'll put them up on the board to remind ourselves. So we're just going to put a little title here of balancing method. So we've got balancing method. All right, so the question was how many of the 4 equations I'm going to write up have a solution of x equals 12? And the 4 we were given was x subtract 2 equals 10. We were given 10 subtract x equals 2. We were given x divided by 2 equals 24. And we were given 2x subtract 1 equals 25. Now, I told you there was only one solution, but we haven't explained why. Right, I'm just checking my messages because what I didn't do was check your marks, and I'm very sorry about that. So let me just quickly pause for 1 second because I'm getting a little bit distracted by the live chat. So I apologize that I didn't do. Right, so we've got 23 out of 30, 30 out of 30, amazing. 15 out of 30, fantastic. Oh, Aaliyah, what happened? What happened? We need to have a little bit of a chat about that, but we can fix it. We can fix it. You can watch this back again and see how you get on. We've got 30 out of 30, 12 out of 30. Brilliant. Okay. And okay. Excellent. Excellent. So I think that's bringing us up to speed, and apologies for that and that slight distraction. Let's have a look at these questions then. Now, I brought this. I have this in my classroom. It's a bit heavy. I hope I don't drop it. Right, so when I talk about the balancing method at school, believe it or not, I use a set of scales. All right, can you see that? There's my set of scales. It's really heavy. It's made out of cast iron. And I use a set of scales to explain the balancing method, because what you do to one side of an equation, you need to do to the other side of the equation to keep your equation balanced. Okay, Aaliyah, you were late, so you didn't get 0. You just need to do it later on catch up. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so let's look at this first example. We've got x, subtract 2 equals 10. Now remember my scales. What I do to one side, I need to do to the other. Because if I just add 2 to one side, it's going to go like that. If I add 2 to one side, I've got to add it to both sides to keep my scales balanced. So I'm going to add 2 to this side, but I'm also going to add 2 to this side. So x equals 12. Look, so there's my first solution. So that one works. So I've got one solution. Now, if you remember, I said that there was only one solution. So the other 3 don't work, but we're still going to look at why they don't work. Let's have a go. Right, so the next one, they're a little bit tricky, these. They tease you to make you think they're going to be 12, but they're not. 10 subtract x equals 2. So when we look at that, we think, well, that might equal 12. Remember, we're using our balancing method. This time we need to move the x over because we want to make sure that we do the same to both sides. And we want to get the x on its own and we want to get the numbers on their own. So we're going to add x to both sides because I don't want a negative x. I want a positive x. Just knocked my scale. So I've got 10 now on this side because a negative x and a positive x cancel out. So I've just got 10 now. And on this side, I've got a 2 plus x. But as I said to you, we need to make sure that that x is on its own. So now I need to subtract 2 from both sides. Right, sorry, I keep bashing my scales. So 10 subtract 2 is 8. 2 subtract 2 disappears. And we have a solution of 8 equals x or x equals 8. Either is fine. So this one is not true because x equals 8. All right, so that one doesn't work. Let's try this one. X divided by 2 equals 24. Again, we could take a look at that and say, well, I know that 24 divided by 2 is 12, so x must be 12. Remember, we want to make sure we're using our balancing method. We need to do the same to both sides. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. X is not 12, it's 48. So on this one, it's wrong because x is 48. Whew, nearly done. One more to do. A lot of work on these algebra questions. 2x subtract 1 equals 25. Again, I'm going to use my balancing method. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I've got 2x equals 26. All right, you got that? But I don't want to know what 2x is. I want to know what 1x is. To get from 2x to 1x, we're going to divide by 2. X, therefore, gives us 13. Okay, so the last one, also not correct. Okay, right, let's have a look at that really tricky question with the equilateral triangle. Now you might have noticed, just whilst I'm clearing the board, I might have made a mistake by giving Rose her own chat. It's called Mini Maths. She's a little bit excited, and I'm a little bit worried that she's spending more time chatting with her friends than she is practicing her maths. So we might have to fix that. But the reason why she's so excited is because rather crazily, we're getting a dog. So maybe if you're really, really lucky, we don't know exactly when we're getting it in August yet, but when we get it, we might even let Harper, as she's going to be known,
come on the call,
have a guest appearance. Maybe we'll see. She might be too naughty. We'll have to find out. Right, so here's my triangle. I need to turn it into, right, you're gonna have to bear with me, this isn't going to be perfect, but you're going to assume that those are 4 perfect equilateral triangles. Okay, and we know that then we're going to split this middle one up. Yeah, so we know that all of this middle one would be 1/4. Okay, but we haven't got all of this middle bit. We've got a bit of it. Let's see how much we've got of it, because this one is then, again, let's hope this is approximately right, split up into 4 triangles itself. And now 3 of those 4 triangles are shaded. So if we were just looking at this bit here, you would see that 3/4 of it is shaded. Okay, let's look at what we can do with that to solve it. So we've got 1/4 was this triangle, and then of this triangle, 3/4 of them are shaded. So we've got 1/4 of the big triangle, and then of the small triangle, we've got 3/4. Okay, so we're going to multiply to get our solution. We get 3 over 16. Now that is the mathematical way to solve this. There is another way. You could just draw in some more triangles. So you could say, well, I know that I can split this into 4 triangles. I can split this into 4 triangles, and I can split this into 4 triangles. And then I can just count them. I've got 3 triangles of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so remember, with lots of questions, there's a mathematical way to solve it, but there's also a visual way that you can solve it by drawing it out. And you might find that much easier to visualize than the calculation itself. Okay. Right, let's do one last question before I put on your review questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about negative numbers, because I'm sorry to say that loads of people really don't like them. They get a little bit scared and they try and remember some rules, but we don't quite remember the rules properly and we get muddled up. So let's see if we can just help a little bit with some negative numbers. Right, so I'm going to put a little title here of negative numbers. Now we have talked about some negative numbers.
Where's the charge for this?
Don't worry. Okay, so these are from yesterday. We didn't have a chance to look at these yesterday. We have 4 multiplied by a negative 5. So we're saying that this is 4 lots of negative 5. 1 lot, 2 lots, 3 lots, 4 lots. So 4 lots of negative 5 give us negative 20. All right, and we also had one yesterday where we had a negative 5 and we added another negative 5 and we got negative 10. So in the same way, instead of having 4 lots of negative 5, This time we just have 2 lots of -5. So we have, here's one -5. Here's another one. 2 lots of -5 give us our -10. Now in part 3 today, question 6, we had that extra negative in to confuse us. So this is where we need to look at some patterns. It takes several lessons to explain this in the classroom, so you have to bear with me for trying to do it in a relatively simple way. So imagine that I had 3 lots of -3. Yeah, we had 25 lots of -3, -25. Okay, so we know from what we've just said that that gives us -9. If we have 2 lots of -3, then you're going to have -6. If you have 1 lot of -3, can you see the pattern now? What's happening? It's like a sequence of numbers. Now, if I have 0 lots of -3, I'm going to have 0. Now, look what happens. Okay, we're losing 1 each time here. We're subtracting 1. So now we're going to -1 lots of -3. Look at this. We're adding 3, adding 3, adding 3, adding 3. So I've now got a +3. I can just write that as 3. Okay. -2 multiplied by -3 is therefore going to give us a +6. And -3 multiplied by -3 gives us a +9. So that's just to give you a little bit. It's really handy if you're in a test and you can't remember and you're trying to remember some arbitrary rule about, 2 negatives equals a positive or something. If you understand, or you can build it up like this, it will make it much, much easier to understand. So hopefully you can see we're just adding 3 each time. And on this side, we're just subtracting 1. All right. And that's a really good way of checking, rather than just saying a minus multiplied by a minus is a positive. A negative, sorry, multiplied by a negative is a positive. Just look at it like that. Okay. Negative numbers are tough. We will try and spend a little bit more time on them. But now it's back to you and time for our review exercise. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.